After making her WWE return this past Friday night on SmackDown, the controversy surrounding Sarah Logan's look possibly ripping off or copying Max the Impaler continues on social media. We've got the reaction to her return and the allegedly stolen look and gimmick. Logan Paul is out of action with a knee injury. We've got an update on when in the match against Roman Reigns at Crown Jewel, Paul suffered this knee tear. There was a strange incident at a WWE live event involving someone throwing a liquid on Scarlett. We've got the details in that bizarre incident. Mustafa Ali's in the SmackDown World Cup, but which brand is he currently assigned to? And a former WWE superstar returns as a guest coach at the Performance Center. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of WWE, and arguably one of the biggest and I guess most controversial stories coming out of SmackDown was Sarah Logan's return to WWE on screen with the Viking Raiders. Now, a lot of people were happy that the Viking Raiders have got this much more serious presentation. However, that's not what people are talking about. They're talking about the look of Sarah Logan and possibly, just maybe, it being ripped off of another talent's look and gimmick, and possibly the people being very annoyed and calling Logan and WWE out on this. So let's get into this. We kind of touched on this on yesterday's video, so it's kind of a rehash of that, but there is more news and more development and certainly a lot more reaction to this in the last 24 hours. So obviously, another formerly released WWE star made their return on Friday's edition of SmackDown when Sarah Logan returned to WWE. Now, Sarah had been shown in vignettes hyping up the return of the Viking Raiders in recent weeks, and they finally made their mark on this week's show on Fox. Sarah led Eric and Ivar to the ring where they assaulted Hit Row, Cruz del Toro, and Joaquin Wilde, with Sarah sporting a new look than she had previously in WWE. Sarah had her hair in dreadlocks with her face painted black, which caught the attention of many wrestling fans. The reason why it caught the attention of many wrestling fans is that those that were familiar with this talent, fans noted a striking resemblance between Sarah and former Ring of Honor star Max the Impaler. Max also wrestles with their hair in dreadlocks and their face painted, and an attire very similar to which Sarah wore on SmackDown. Reacting to the comparisons, Max took to their Twitter earlier after SmackDown on yesterday, Saturday the 12th of November, to share a GIF of themselves which garnered responses from their fans who accused Sarah of copying their look. Sarah Logan was released from WWE back in April of 2020, and after 2.5 years away from the company, she is now back. Of course, she is the real-life wife of Eric of the Viking Raiders, and obviously, as I mentioned, social media has certainly been buzzing and discussing all of this. I mentioned Max the Impaler posted a GIF to their social media, which generated a lot of reactions, and certainly a lot of people assuming that that was their reaction on it, basically saying, yeah, I agree with what people are saying. Now, Max the Impaler also works in a tag team with Heidi Howitzer, and according to Heidi Howitzer, again, there could be more to this than just, it looks similar, or certainly there could be more to this than just, inspiration or similarities, because there was a Twitter account called @MelHayesRed who said, even the green dread, like we wouldn't notice, essentially saying even to the smallest details, Sarah Logan has copied Max the Impaler. And Heidi Howitzer tweeted, quote, LOL, she even went to Max's hair lady, suggesting that Sarah Logan actually went to the same person that does the hair of Max the Impaler to fully rip off the gimmick. Now, I touched on this yesterday in yesterday's video when we were reacting to some of the events that happened on SmackDown. And this is one that has generated a lot of discussion. This is one that has generated a lot of debate on social media. And I think clearly, one thing you cannot argue, irrespective rather of what side of the fence you sit on this issue with, that there are similarities. That clearly are similarities. The picture's right there. It's a similar look. No doubt about it. Now, the crux of the issue is, why is it a similar look? Is it a similar look because it's a Viking gimmick? It's very Odin inspired, and if you're going to be portraying a Viking character, then you're always going to have a similar look, because there is a look that's associated with being a Viking, Odin Empress, if you will. That's always going to be the look. Therefore, the similarities are always going to be there, irrespective of whether she copied her or not. That's what one people are saying, that it's kind of public domain, as it were, that look. However, there are some people that are saying, well, there are always going to be similarities between the looks if they're playing similar kind of gimmicks. However, you cannot argue that some of the finer details of the look are similar, finer details that wouldn't be there if it was just we're just playing a general sort of Viking looking character here. And I think that's the crux of the issue. Of people are saying, well, okay, we can understand why there would be similarities, but when you come to small details like the one green dread, which both characters have, unless this is a Viking aspect that I don't know too much about, and I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm an expert on that. I'm sure there'll be experts out there that can tell me whether the green dread is a common look for this sort of Viking character or a Viking gimmick. I don't know, but certainly one could argue there are similarities. And I think the key thing is, because it is really difficult. This is the problem when you accuse people of copying you or stealing your gimmick or whatever. You have to, if you're going to take this really far, i.e. to a court of law, and I don't know if it will ever go this far. It might be a case of it being sorted in the court of public opinion as opposed to a court of law when it comes to, copycats, or when it comes to, again, copying lawsuits or anything like that. The smoking gun, as it were, could be, if what Heidi Howitzer is saying there is true, when she says that Sarah Logan even went to the same hair person as Max the Impaler, that could be the smoking gun, because that is when you could come in and say, wow, she went to the same person because she wanted to look like Max the Impaler. However, you could then push back on it and say, well, she went to this person because she's well known for doing a Viking style look. Therefore, it could be a crossover. I don't know. And I can't sit here today and say one way or the other that Sarah Logan and the WWE have absolutely copied Max the Impaler's look. You can absolutely say there are similarities, and I think there are striking similarities. Again, I can't sit here, though, and say definitively she's copied it, because at the same time, I don't know a lot about, again, that sort of culture, the Viking culture and all that kind of stuff. I can't say whether it's common or not. I can do as much research as the next, but unless you've got Sarah Logan, search history or speaking to people saying I'm going to rip this off, I don't know. I can't answer that. But certainly there are striking similarities, and it would be worth, I think, Sarah Logan coming out and saying one way or the other. Clearly, she's not going to come out and say, yeah, I copied her. I don't know. But again, I think, as I mentioned, this one's going to be in the court of public opinion and having their decision on it. And again, it's a really polarizing issue. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Did Sarah Logan and the WWE rip off Max the Impaler, or didn't she? Is it a common look? Is it public domain? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Logan Paul, people are still buzzing about Logan Paul's appearance and fantastic performance in the main event of WWE Crown Jewel last weekend. But of course, the bad news coming out of the match was that Logan Paul suffered a really serious knee injury. Torn MCL, torn ACL, torn meniscus. His knees have been absolutely ripped apart, and he was part of one of the best WWE matches of 2022, frankly, at Crown Jewel, when he challenged Roman Reigns for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. The YouTube sensation didn't walk away from the match unscathed, though, as I mentioned, and Paul claimed after the contest that he suffered a torn meniscus and MCL and potentially a torn ACL. According to Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, it is believed Paul suffered the injury during his frog splash to Reigns from the top rope through the announce table. The moment, of course, went viral as Paul filmed it from his phone, and it has amassed over 40 million views on social media. Meltzer noted Paul was on crutches after the match. There is no word on if he has undergone surgery or how long he'll be out of action for. It was reported that he'd already begun rehab on the injury, so I don't know if he's going to undergo surgery, but given the severity of that injury, chances are it has to be fixed by a surgical intervention. Of course, Crown Jewel was only Paul's third match inside of the squared circle. He made his in-ring debut at WrestleMania 38 before defeating The Miz in singles action at SummerSlam. It wouldn't be the first time that someone has done that to their knee with a table spot like that. I think back to WrestleMania 29. With CM Punk versus The Undertaker, and it was a similar spot essentially, whereby CM Punk from the top turnbuckle to the announce table at ringside was going to drop an elbow drop on The Undertaker, and the table was meant to break. The table didn't break. Of course, the table did break in the instance of Logan Paul. Nevertheless, the table was meant to break. It didn't, and he came down on his knee, and essentially that table, as flimsy as it is, and when they gimmick it up, and nowadays they do put padding on there, but it's a long way to go. It's a hard drop, and your knees are genuinely the first thing to hit. And if you fall flat like that, basically all the impact goes like that on your knee, and your knee just goes crush. It's not meant to have that amount of force on it. So because of that, your knee just tends to implode. And that's exactly what happened to CM Punk. That's what happened to Logan Paul. And it's happened to others as well. That's why it's a spot that may look great, but it's a dangerous spot, even if it's executed correctly, which indeed it was. It was executed more than correctly in Logan Paul's case. The table collapsed, but still, his knees hit the table, and because of that, one of them essentially exploded. So it just goes to show how risky that spot is. And I know people are still talking about the performance, and the performance was fantastic. I think Meltzer nearly gave it 5 stars, whatever that means, because it's just opinion anyway. But people are still raving and talking about it, which is absolutely justified. I think, obviously, Logan Paul was guided through the match, and he had a lot of time to rehearse it, but still you have to execute it. And it is a 2-person dance, and absolutely, it was a fantastic match. And Logan Paul clearly has a gift for this. There is no doubt about that. Whether you like him or not, he has a gift for this. But now, already, the time is ticking when it comes to WrestleMania, let's face it, because obviously the hope would be that he'll be involved in WrestleMania next year in SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California, but we're talking about 5 months away. And to recover from a torn MCL, possibly a torn ACL, torn meniscus in 5 months, that is no mean feat. I mentioned Bayley tore her ACL. She was out of action for over a year. Granted, you could push it and you could have him come back in a tag team match, which I think is probably the plan, to have Logan and Jake Paul versus the Usos at WrestleMania. Again, that's not been reported. That's just speculation on my part. So maybe if you're in a tag team match, you can get away with it. But still, it's a real rush against time at this point. We've seen what happens when you get injured at Crown Jewel with a major injury come WrestleMania. I remember Triple H, of course, infamously tore his pec at Crown Jewel in that match with DX against the Brothers of Destruction. He made it back for WrestleMania, but as he mentioned for that, he couldn't do anything. He couldn't rehearse anything until the day of the match because he didn't know how it was going to feel. And that was a torn pec, and a torn pec is equally as serious. However, the recovery time tends to be somewhat shorter than a torn ACL, torn MCL, and torn meniscus. So again, it's a massive rush against time at the moment for Logan Paul, and it'll be interesting to see if he makes it back or if WWE decides, you know what, it's not worth it. We want you healthy. You can do a match when you're ready to do so. There was a strange incident at a WWE live event this past weekend. Very, very odd. There was a bizarre incident that took place earlier last night, actually it was, at a WWE house show in Peoria, Illinois for Saturday night main event. Making their return to Peoria for the first time in over 2.5 years, one top WWE star was greeted with a less than warm reception from the fans in attendance. Reported by numerous fans in attendance on Twitter, a bizarre situation occurred which turned a bit frightening as a fan at ringside got out of control. The house show was featuring a match between Karrion Kross and Drew McIntyre with Scarlett at ringside when the bizarre fan attack occurred. According to several Twitter users, there was a scene in which an older woman sitting ringside threw some kind of liquid, completely dousing Scarlett. Some were saying it looked like water, others reported it was beer or alcohol, but mentioned that the woman was approached by security and was removed. When security returned to remove the rest of the party she was with, presumably family there, was reportedly, there was then police involvement as well. Eventually, the woman and all the people she was with were kicked out of the event. But certainly, it was an odd incident, and I just don't know what honestly goes through the mind of people. I understand, you know, that you can get some sides of it. Some people will say, oh yeah, but you want fans to be rowdy and you want fans to believe it and buy in and suspension of disbelief. But it's 2022. Everyone knows the game, especially if you're an adult, an older woman. Everyone knows the game. It's a work, okay? You participate in the show. You cheer, you boo. You get in people's faces, certainly. If you want to have that interaction with a talent, if you've got a heel at ringside, you can say, oh, no, screw you, you're a bad guy. I'll get out of my face, get in an argument. But when you start throwing, whatever it was, water, alcohol, whatever, that's too far. That is too far. And certainly, it's one of those incidences where you know for a fact, if I was in the street, you wouldn't do it. Because if you do it, you'd get the hell beaten out of you. You would. The only reason they do it is because they know as a WWE superstar, it's the talent's prerogative not to attack a fan who paid to come see the show. I mean, you pay your ticket to come see the show, shout what you want within reason, obviously, do what you want, but don't do that. Don't do that because it's just dumb and it makes everyone look stupid. It's a show at the end of the day. That's what it is. It's a show. Just absolutely ridiculous. Even at a sporting event, you wouldn't do that at a sporting event, let alone something that's a work. It's bizarre. Mustafa Ali, a lot of people have been talking about which brand is actually Mustafa Ali on at the moment, because the SmackDown World Cup tournament to determine Gunther's challenger for the next challenger for the Intercontinental Championship kicked off this week, when Japan's Shinsuke Nakamura took on Mexico's Santos Escobar of Legado del Fantasma. Then it was America versus India when Braun Strowman faced Jinder Mahal. Next week, the action continues. Ricochet is pitted against Pakistan's Mustafa Ali in another first-round match. But does that mean then that a member of the Raw roster will be making a permanent home on the blue brand? Because, of course, Mustafa Ali is a member of the Monday Night Raw roster. Despite the tournament bracket consisting almost entirely of SmackDown stars, Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select has reported that Ali has not moved to the brand permanently and is still set to be featured on Monday Night Raw as well. The former leader of Retribution is currently involved in the United States Championship program with champion Seth freaking Rollins and former champion Bobby Lashley on Mondays, so it looks like that story will continue to play out in conjunction with Ali's participation in the SmackDown World Cup. The report also mentioned that there was no reason given for bringing in Ali instead of using someone else for the SmackDown roster, which has a diverse collection of talent. One of the Los Lotharios, Solo Sikoa, could have easily stepped in, but one has to wonder if this could be related to Strowman's recent comments after Crown Jewel, in which he called some wrestlers flippy floppers. A number of the Monster of All Monsters colleagues addressed the tweet, including Ali. Could this be a sign that the heart of 205 Live ends up facing Strowman in the semi-finals? Certainly that would be interesting. Time will tell if WWE decides to make something out of that. It was reported at the time that it wouldn't lead to a storyline, it wouldn't lead to a match, but anything's possible. I think people are looking into this one a bit too much, to be honest. You know, when people start saying, oh, but Mustafa Ali's on Monday Night Raw, why would he be on SmackDown? Every single week there is someone on SmackDown that's most likely assigned to the Raw roster or the Raw brand. For whatever reason, that's just how it works. I said at the moment, Triple H is not paying too close attention, honestly, to the Raw and SmackDown brand split situation, in my opinion, and this is just an opinion. It's something that I keep saying over and over again because I really do think it is the plan of Triple H. I think this is why he's brought back so many talents to the WWE roster that were previously released. I think what we're going to see is Triple H flooding out the roster, which he's been doing with these, new signings or these calls up from NXT. And I think then what we're going to see after WrestleMania 39 next year, I think we're going to see a great reset. And I think what that reset really is I think what we are going to see is a draft coming out of WrestleMania, and I think that's going to lead to a hard brand split, similar to what we saw in 2003 to sort of 2007, whereby those two rosters did not touch. I don't know if they're going to do separate pay-per-view events again. It didn't really work last time they tried it in sort of 2016, 2017, but certainly I think they're going to have a hard brand split, and I think that's what they need, and I think it can be done right if WWE is committed to doing it and doesn't pull out a minute in because the ratings don't reflect it. So I think that's the plan. So I wouldn't focus too much on where people are assigned to when it comes to brands or anything like that at the moment. Finally, Kalisto is going to be doing good lucha things at the Performance Center. This week, former WWE superstar Kalisto was at several NXT live events and reportedly served as a guest coach and producer, according to Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select. According to the report, Kalisto was at the Performance Center throughout the week and was at Friday night's live events. He was the producer of the women's matches. It's unclear if he'll be back soon or if it's a one-time deal. We have several guest coaches at the Performance Center very often. Kalisto was released by WWE in April of 2021. He was with the company since May of 2013 prior to being released. He's a former Cruiserweight champion, NXT Tag Team champion, United States champion. His last match with the company was in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royale on the WrestleMania 37 Go Home edition of SmackDown as well. After his release, he went back to his ring name of Samurai Del Sol. He has made his AEW debut in November last year. He's wrestled in AAA. His last match was on October 21, where he faced indie wrestler Noah Striker for the LLB Absolute title. Fightful also noted in the report that Kalisto became a free agent back in 2021, or since he became a free agent. Impact Wrestling had discussed bringing him in, but of course that never happened. So certainly he might become, back to the company in terms of being a coach or producer. We'll have to wait and see. If we get an update on that, we'll talk about it here on the channel. But there you go, guys. It's the latest WWE news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Let me know your thoughts on today's WWE news stories in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.